IVM.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Musafir Stories, India's very own travel podcast, where each week we discuss the story of travelers in their own words and relive their experiences with you, our listeners. Hi guys, I'm your host Saif, and our guest traveler today is Sangeeta Das from the blog Life is a Vacation. Sangeeta has had a successful corporate career that has lasted over 15 years before she decided to quit and take charge of her life, which she likes to call a startup. Once upon a time a workaholic, she's now on a refreshing journey, cultivating infinite patience and acceptance. Sangeeta travels extensively in India and overseas, experiencing, learning, and unraveling. Sangeeta blogs about the complete experience of a destination, the sights, the people, the art, and the food, the experience of just being there and the soul searching that follows. She firmly believes that sights are seen by tourists, but travelers seek much more, wanting to immerse into the sights and sounds of the place with all their senses. Sangeeta, thank you so much for being a part of the Musafir Stories and welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Saif, for having me on Musafir Stories, and I really look forward to our conversation.
Excellent. Sangeeta, the introduction I gave is kind of concise and a little short and sweet. Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit more about yourself, when you started traveling, per se, and more about your blog, Life is a Vacation as well. When did you start blogging?
All right. I've been traveling from the time I think I remember or my memory goes back to. But the early days were more of vacations once or twice a year to some place that parents would take me to. And but the travel bug had caught on to me from a very young age, and I used to really love going to places. And I think those days it was more of beaches or mountains or historical places. Mm-hmm. So later on, when I started working, and thankfully I had a consulting job, and which took me to different countries, different places, and it just widened my horizon. And I used to love the food of those places, the culture, and I really used to soak in as much as possible. So somewhere during that period, I decided to take off for a month, and I did my first backpacking trip, which was almost about 15 years ago. And those days we didn't have digital cameras. So it was more of the old analog camera. And I backpacked through Europe, through multiple countries with two of my friends. And it was not even euro, it was different currencies. So went through the entire process of planning the travel to doing everything, like managing ourselves, exchanging currencies, different countries, different languages. It was an experience. But blogging happened much, much later. Though I used to travel, I used to click pictures, I used to write down some notes, but blogging happened only about 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. 4 years ago rather, and that is because by then I had decided to quit my full-time job and do something different, and I had time on hand, and I decided to sit and write about all my travels and start chronicling them. And it was more for my own interest, because I would like to go back and read how I felt at that point in time. But soon when I started blogging and writing about it, then a lot of people sent emails, they liked what I wrote, they asked questions, and I think that just encouraged me to continue. And going back to the name, Life is a Vacation, I think when I quit my job, I was in the mode of a vacation. I was looking forward to getting up in the morning, not to any angry emails from people, no phone calls to attend to, no fires burning anywhere. I used to work in IT services, and it was like you were always on the edge, as if something is happening somewhere, and people tend to exaggerate a lot. Patience runs low. So having left all that behind, I was really looking forward to relax and to, just to take every day as it comes. So I think at that moment, Life is a Vacation was very apt, and it just suited my state of mind. And thanks to whoever guided me to choose the name, the universe, I think that's how I continue to remain. So life for me is a vacation, and it's absolutely, I love my peace and contentment, and I hope everyone gets to experience it in some form or the other in their lifetime.
Excellent, beautifully put. And I'd also like
Yeah.
to ask you, Sangeeta, you mentioned about your Europe backpacking trip. Did that happen before or after DDLJ? I'm assuming after, right?
Yeah, that was much after DDLJ. You can say it was partly inspired by DDLJ, but the difference was we were three girls from India. We didn't have the luxury of living abroad by then, but we were all very enamored by European history, and I think London and Paris always had this image in my mind that I had to go to. From the time I think I knew about the poem, that nursery rhyme London Bridge. So for me, it was a big thing. Like it was like my life's dream, ambition, everything coming true. It was one of the best trips of my life. Yeah, I wish. There was no blogging then, but I wish there was. I could write so many stories. Anyway.
Absolutely. And you tend to cherish these for a long time after you've made those trips, right?
Yeah, and the best part is those pictures are in an album. And on a rainy evening when I'm feeling nostalgic, that album creeps out of the cupboard, and you keep turning the pages. And I tell you, how many ever pictures we take in the digital mode on our laptops, but the joy of turning hard photographs in an album is something else.
I hear you completely. Super. So getting on with the interview then, Sangeeta, we have a little customary tradition that we have with Musafir Stories where each week or each episode when we interview our guest travelers, we request them to take us on a journey to a destination in India. So having said that, where are you taking our listeners today?
I will take you to Kutch in Gujarat. And Kutch for me is one of the first places in India where I traveled alone. I won't say completely alone. I went with a friend partly, but we were two ladies alone. And the way Kutch opened its arm for us, I think it remains etched in my memory. So Kutch is a soft spot for me, and I love talking about it. So I'm going to take the listeners to Kutch today.
Excellent. And why Kutch? Was there a reason behind that decision, or just a snap decision?
Not really. Actually, two things which partly influenced me. And when we were deciding on a place to go to, and I think I prevailed on my friend and told her, okay, let's go to Kutch. One is there's a book, Love Across the White Desert, which was a romantic story on which a movie had also got made called Refugee. And this whole white desert thing, the salt layer, was very intriguing. And second was the ad. I think Gujarat Tourism did a fantastic job with the ad. So when I used to see Amitabh Bachchan come on screen and say, Kutch nahi dekha to kuch nahi dekha, and on the white sand, I knew partly it could not have as exotic, but that whole thing, I think somewhere tempted me a lot, because I am someone who's very driven by moonlight. I tend to plan all my trips in and around to see how the moon shines on different places. So Kutch was like an obvious choice.
Super. So having said that, you traveled there for the moonlight and for the joy of the time spent under the moonlight. What time of the year did you choose to travel?
Kutch, ideally you should go between October and March. So we were there in the middle of December.
Awesome. And how did you get there, Sangeeta?
So since we are from Bangalore, we took a flight into Ahmedabad, and we had actually hired a car with a chauffeur for 10 days to take us around Kutch.
Before you get into your the details of your itinerary, in terms of packing, anything specific to keep in mind given the time of the year we're visiting there?
See, daytime it is very warm, rather hot at times, but from evening after sundown it tends to get pretty cold. So you don't need gloves and stuff, but you should definitely have a cap to cover your ears and your head so that not to get cold, and also have a jacket and a light sweater with you.
So let's get into the specifics of your itinerary. You did mention that it was a 10-day vacation. So give us give us a little more detail about that, Sangeeta? Where did you start off, and what are some of the activities or things you saw?
Absolutely. So in Ahmedabad, I would strongly recommend that people take the walk in the morning, which is from the Swaminarayan temple in Kalupur. And it is a free walk. And they take you around through the different poles. Poles are like these localities within the city. These are the old areas. And you walk through different lanes and by lanes and get a feel of the buzz of Ahmedabad, the old Ahmedabad. And you end up in Jama Masjid. So this walk is also known as Mandir se Masjid tak. So you start in a temple and you end in the mosque.
Yeah.
And you get to see a lot of Ahmedabad's old heritage, the markets, and get the sights and sounds of the place. Apart from that, local sightseeing in Ahmedabad is also highly recommended. We did a lot of, street food and went into some fine dining, typical Gujarati cuisine restaurants. Apart from that, go to Adalat, Stepwell. Then we went to Swaminarayan Temple. So Ahmedabad has a lot to offer, but I think a day or a day and a half is more than enough because you can spend more time in Kutch.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we went to Little Rann of Kutch. So on the way, we stopped in Modhera and Patan. Modhera Sun Temple is one of the few sun temples in India, and it's amazing. The wall sculptures are something to cherish. So I have written in detail about it on my blog, but the striking beauty of the place still like flashes in front of my eyes. And as regards Patan, we were like, the driver parked the vehicle and he said, there you go. And I couldn't see anything. It was like a lawn, green lawn. And I was like, where have you got us? He said, just keep walking. You'll see what you have to see. So we walk and we suddenly come across this place, which is like deep down, so much inside and such exquisite carvings and sculptures that, we are like spellbound. We are dumbfounded at the beauty of the place. Patan is where you have one of the greatest monuments, which is also a UNESCO World Heritage Site, where a queen built a monument for her husband, which is a step well under the ground. And I think it is one of the best refined architecture that you can find in India. It is just simply awesome, and built by Rani Udaymati for the king, for her husband. I think it is something that people talk a lot about Taj Mahal and Shah Jahan's love for Mumtaz Mahal, but you should go and see Rani Ki Bhav Patan, where what she has poured out her heart for her husband. It is an amazing monument, in my opinion. And in Patan is also home to the Patola saris. Patola saris are a kind of silk saris with a particular weave and color. And you can go to where there are only a few families who weave the patola now. So you can just drop by and they are more than happy to show you how they weave the patola and how it is all prepared. It is frightfully expensive, but at least you can go and someday dream of purchasing it.
I guess it's still, I don't know how many years this will go on for the tradition, so it's a good thing that you got a glimpse of that. And
Yes.
did you manage to buy one, or you?
No, I didn't buy any patola because it was way, way beyond my budget. But during the trip, I did visit a lot of other handicrafts villages and a lot of people who are engaged in the different handicraft activities, and I managed to pick up stuff from them.
Awesome. I'd also like to ask, in terms of lodging, where did you lodge each time? Was it like homestays, or was it like proper hotels?
It was a mix because in Little Rann of Kutch, we stayed in Run Riders, which is one of the resorts in that place. And so Run Riders had this package where the safaris to the wild ass sanctuary was included. And to be frank, initially I was like, wild ass? Who goes to see wild ass? But let me tell you, my whole impression of these wild asses changed from indifference to admiration. They were like from far, like these beautiful horses standing out there. And since you go in December, you see a lot of these migratory birds out all over the place. And so staying in Run Riders with their safaris in the morning and evening and their excellent food, I think it was a very good decision to stay with them. And very comfortable, traditional housing. So I would suggest that when you go to Kutch, if you stay only in hotels, you might not get the feel of the whole Kutchi culture. So would recommend that you stay in homestays and also in places like these who have the traditional bhungas and mud houses and stuff like that.
Excellent. And you did lightly touch upon the food as well. Tell us a little bit more, because I know you're renowned for your foodie tales on your blog. So tell us a little bit more about the food.
Yeah, Kutch food, if you see, actually, Gujarati food in general is a little on the sweeter side. So even the dals have, quite a bit of sweet. And there are a lot of fried stuff and the fafdas and the theplas and stuff like that. But when you go to Kutch, whether it is, I had extensive non-vegetarian food also in Kutch in some places. The food is very different. It's not the traditional Gujarati. It is quite spicy. And it has a different kind of taste. It's slightly more with the, a little bit of North Indian touch to it, more of the Punjabi, not Punjabi as much, a little bit of Rajasthani touch to it. So Kutchi food that way, I thought their curries and all were very different from the normal Gujarati food that you would get in Ahmedabad, Surat and Baroda types.
Cool. Did you have a chance from time to time to have interaction with the locals?
Yeah, absolutely. Because after completing Little Rann of Kutch, from there we headed out to Dholavira. It was a long journey. Dholavira is the last excavated site of the Indus Valley civilization. And Dholavira is almost on the border of Pakistan to the extreme northwestern part of Gujarat. So in Dholavira, it's like you are driving through dusty roads and you suddenly chance upon this place. So you find a lot of locals out there, not too many. And also the border security force who are standing and guarding the borders. And Dholavira is where you can see the pristine white run. So when you're in conversation with a lot of locals, you figure out that, how Dholavira always has been excavated slightly. So how it's impacted their life, how tourism has come about, and people are more, though the ASI staff are there, but they are very few in numbers. So how they explain the stories of the place about Dholavira, and so you get to know a lot about the local lifestyle. And what will surprise you is that almost every house has a dish antenna, so there is prosperity. So you see life very in the villages, very up close and personal, because Dholavira, I wouldn't even call one of the developed districts or anything like that. And then you realize that people in these remote areas actually, because of the adverse conditions or whatever they live in, because it's extreme cold and extreme heat. So somewhere they are very resilient. And you can see the prosperity. Otherwise, the houses are painted well, very neatly kept, very well maintained, the dish antenna. So you feel, and mostly they are engaged in handicrafts and stuff like that. So, or in the excavation work in the site. So that is very heartwarming.
Okay, and it looks like tourism plays a big part in that as well, right?
Yes, absolutely. Tourism, see, there are pros and cons. Too much of anything is not good. But a lot of, even if you see our hill stations or any of these remote areas, because of tourism, they have got access to a lot of places because they've got employment, there has been improvement. But at the same time, it does tend to impact the ecological balance of the place.
Absolutely.
So there is who takes the onus to maintain that balance? So everyone wants to prosper in life, right? So it's always that question and debate.
That's true. So, and you also did mention there that this was one of the farthest points of Gujarat and closer to the India-Pakistan border, right?
Yeah.
Having said that, is there at any point a need for any permits and such for traveling to these places?
Dholavira, you don't need a permit, but they don't let you get off the vehicle in most of these places where you're very close to the border, because you drive by and BSF is guarding the border. They don't allow you to get onto the run, but it is white and it shines under sunlight. But you do need a permit for Great Rann of Kutch.
Okay.
And that can be obtained at the gate itself, where you have to carry your ID and you fill up a form, and you pay a very nominal amount based on the number of nights you want to stay, and you get the permit to go in.
So it's not much of a hassle, I'm assuming.
No. It's not much of a hassle, but if you're there on a weekend, you might encounter a queue. Otherwise, it's not a hassle, and they're very nice and very professional people. They let you go. So.
Excellent. So give us a little bit more insight into, so you are at the Rann of Kutch at this point, right?
Yeah, so from Dholavira, we drive down further towards the sea, so towards Rann of Kutch. So that's where from Dholavira we came to Bhuj. Bhuj is the one of the cities within Kutch. And if you recollect, Bhuj faced a massive earthquake a couple of years ago when it was literally flattened. Bhuj was literally flattened. And but from that point on to now, Bhuj has recovered. Yes, you can still see the effects of the earthquake. A lot of buildings have been cracked. Some of these palaces and all have developed deep cracks, which are getting repaired, not yet repaired due to want of money. But overall, the city has recovered. So, but we didn't stay in Bhuj. We stayed a little away from Bhuj in a place called Devpar. Devpar has a beautiful homestay run by a branch of the royal family of Kutch. So we stayed in Devpar with Krutat Singh Jadeja in his homestay. And I think that was a fantastic experience because he is thoroughly knowledgeable about Kutch. And he took great care of us. And every evening he would tell us stories about Kutch, about his forefathers, and how this whole, Kutch kingdom came about and things, and about the state of the cultural heritage of Gujarat and Kutch in particular. And I think that was one of the high points of my visit to Kutch, that you get to hear the actual story from someone who's been a part of it. His family has been a part of it.
Super. And as you mentioned even earlier, right, staying in hotels probably doesn't give you an opportunity to experience something like this.
In fact, apart from Ahmedabad, in this entire trip, we never stayed in a hotel. So we stayed about 3 or 4 nights in Devpar, and we did a lot of trips around Kutch, like day trips. Like one day we went to Mandvi, where you have the Vijay Vilas Palace, which was the summer home of the Kutch, the Jadeja rulers of Kutch. And in fact, Mandvi, Vijay Vilas Palace is very, very popular. Most people come to see because that is the palace where the iconic movie of Salman Khan, Hum Dil Sanam, has been shot. And you actually go right up and where you see him singing that particular song, I can't recollect right now. And you get a feel of the place. You can see the beach, and it's a beautifully constructed palace. So airy, so beautiful. So that's one of it. And in Mandvi, you should definitely have the dabeli, which is something like the batata vada of Maharashtra, of Bombay. And otherwise, Mandvi, the beach is fantastic. You know, one of the beaches of where the sand doesn't stick to your feet. I don't know why. So, and a camel ride on the beach, or look at the windmills. We did spend about a half a day in Mandvi, just hanging around in the beach, in the palace. And there's a very famous restaurant called Osho in Mandvi Market. So Osho has this brilliant thali. And we really couldn't complete even what he gave initially, and they wanted to give us more. And when we looked at him and told him no, he was like horrified, like, why don't you guys eat? So awesome hospitality.
Yeah, that one is a famous restaurant. So how many days into the itinerary are we, Sangeeta, by this point?
We are about 7 days into the itinerary. So after that, we went into one more day we spent in going to Land's End in Gujarat. So Land's End in Gujarat is the furthest point of India, and there you have a temple, the Koteshwar temple, and you also have Narayan Sarovar Lake, which is supposed to have a myth and a legend connected with Lord Vishnu. Apart from that, there you have a Lakhpat fort, which was supposed to be one of the forts where Guru Nanak Ji himself had Lakhpat fort has a Gurudwara inside where Guru Nanak Ji himself had graced. So, but in a very dilapidated, sorry state of condition, except that BSF occupies the borders of the fort to guard the fort. On our way back, we went into the fossil park where this gentleman who is now taking care of the fossil park on his own, and he collects fossils, and he's made it to a completely like a museum things where you can see a lot of these fossils that have been collected by him. His name is Mr. Sodhi. But whoever goes to Kutch, I would suggest that they go and look at the fossils there, because Kutch is one of the fossil-rich areas in India.
Awesome. And then you have been going to these remote places all through your trip. So I'd like to ask, in terms of connectivity and phones, how convenient was that, or was that a challenge?
It doesn't connect all the time, but you know what? I prefer that. I don't want all these phones buzzing with mostly different numbers, and it'll be all kinds of marketing calls, people trying to sell me something or the other. So if calls don't connect, I'm very happy. As regards my friends and family are concerned, I do text them or try to keep in touch as regularly as possible. So the rest of the people who are calling me for all kinds of mundane stuff can wait. So I don't mind. But if you're someone who's wants to be Wi-Fi and all these things, so it might be a challenge at times. But I'm talking about a trip made 4 years ago, so things may have changed drastically after that for the better.
Awesome. So moving on, where did you head to from here?
Yeah, from there we went to Great Rann of Kutch, and that was the time of Ranotsav. Those were the days Ranotsav would only be for 15 days and 20 days. Now they continue for some 2-3 months, and they have a complete tent city where you can go and you can stay in the tents in the run and enjoy the whole music and dance and the exhibitions and stuff. So we went to Great Rann of Kutch. We stayed in this place called Shame Sarhad. Shame Sarhad is an eco resort. They call it a resort, but it is the eco-friendly place which is maintained completely by the locals. And they have only constructed it. So there's no hard construction of concrete. So it's all mud. And the base is mud. The bed we slept on was made of mud. The sofas we sat on were made of mud, but covered with beautifully embroidered Kutchi blankets and Kutchi cushion covers and stuff. And it's such a luxurious place. I have all the details on my blog that if you see it, you won't even believe that these are makeshift. And when in summer or during monsoon, they are all taken out and kept out, like they are all taken out, and that place becomes like completely deserted, only to be brought back in winter when tourists start arriving. And they also had an attached shower and an attached restroom, which was fantastic. The way the entire place has been designed and maintained, I must say that the local panchayat and the members are doing a fantastic job. They have their regular jobs as regular work as craftsmen, or they do our farmers, but during this time they have their own roster and they take turns to come and serve in these, and the profits are shared by them equally.
Excellent. And I'd highly recommend our listeners to go and check out Sangeeta's blog, because she has some excellent pictures. She's already good with her words, we know that, but she also has some excellent pictures of all the places she has covered in the itinerary. So please do go and check out her blog, lifeisavacation.in. And Sangeeta, moving on now, are we ready to take that?
Yes. Moonlight trip, yes. So after that, moonlight trip is in the evening. So I would highly recommend that the listeners be there by around 4:30, because that's when the sunset happens on one side and the moon rises on the other side. So you and the cut and the run is really, really, really crowded. You have busloads of people coming in from Bhuj and other places only to see that. So try to walk ahead as much as possible, because you can just make sure that you don't go so deep that you lose your way. But that's when you can see the run getting, tinges of crimson and red on one side, and on the other side the moon making an appearance, and that's a surreal sight. And then you have to hang around till about 7:30 or 8. It does get to be windy and cold. So if you're someone who has low cold tolerance, then better have gloves on. But I would definitely recommend a shawl and a cap and stuff. And just be there, sit on the cuts, sit on the run, sit on the salt, roll on the ground, do whatever, and wait for the moonlight to appear. And for me, it was like I was completely overwhelmed by it, to the extent that I remember doing a couple of somersaults onto the sand and onto the run on that white sand, on the white layer of salt. So it was definitely an experience I would recommend everyone to go through at least once.
Gets the inner kid out of you, right? Cool. So Sangeeta, you did mention that you spent about 3.5 hours there, or was that long?
Yeah. 4:30 to 7:30 we were there, and then we came back to the Ranotsav area for some music and food, and then got back to Shame Sarhad for the evening.
Okay, and this is an important thing to keep in mind, that as you're visiting during the months of the Ranotsav, it does tend to get a little crowded, right? So best to
And now it's become very popular, and it's getting very crowded. But it was crowded, but it was not so much that we couldn't enjoy ourselves. So during the day, there's not much you can't go to the run because it's too hot, and you'll be blinded by all the whiteness around. So during the day, I would recommend people make a visit to Nirona village. It is not very far away from Great Rann of Kutch, but definitely go to Nirona village. That is where you have all these handicrafts, craftsmen there who do different kinds of embroidery and different kinds of handicrafts there. You can also go to the other villages like Dhodo, where you have people doing stuff. And there are a lot of NGOs in Kutch who are working at training these people in design and marketing themselves and helping them get customers, export orders and stuff. So you can see Rogan art. It's very different from Rogan Josh. Rogan art is, when you look at it, it will look like fabric painting, but it's actually an art where a typical kind of material is used to do that. And I have a very detailed photo story on Rogan art on my blog. So in case you want to see how it is done, you can go and check it out. And I did buy a small stole with some Rogan embroidery. And let me tell you, every time I go out with that, everyone is like asking me, why, where? So that's one. And then we did visit the bell makers. Kutchi bells are very famous. They are handmade. They are not machine made. So when they're handmade, they're a bit uneven, but the sounds are like really lovely. And the person who made the bells, he actually plays an instrument called morchang. I don't know whether you have heard about morchang. Morchang is a small scissor-like thing which with the wire, which the tongue is used to create these sounds. So that was a revelation.
Interesting. How's it pronounced again? Morchang?
Morchang, Morchang, Morchang.
Cool, I'll check that out.
So we also went towards this area where is called India Bridge. So basically you can see, you can't go ahead much, but that is where the LOC starts, because the final border is like about 5-6 kilometers away, but you can see a bridge on which the army vehicles and our forces travel to go to their border posts. So you can see very far, you can see, 5 kilometers away is Pakistan. You can't see much, but you just get a feel. And also, when you are in any LOC post, I have been fortunate enough to be in several of these areas. Is that when you see the forces guarding them and their and the conditions in which they survive, I think the only thing you can think about that point in time is gratitude for doing that for all of us to sleep in peace and to be safe. So it's always a point of gratitude for me.
Absolutely. It's easy for us to sit in our daily
Yes,
jobs or whatever we're
yes,
doing and
yes,
enjoy life,
yes.
but there is somebody who is looking
Guarding
over
the
us and
borders.
guarding us
Yeah.
and making sure that we are safe. So hats off, and really proud of all our armed forces.
Yes, yes.
So having said that, are we inching towards the end of the journey now, Sangeeta?
Yeah, towards the end of the journey. So more or less done. The other thing I would say is, apart from India Bridge, you have this place called Chadidand, where you get a lot of birds in the morning. If you're into birding and into bird photography and you want to go spend hours looking at all these migratory birds, then you should definitely make a trip to Chadidand. It's a little marshy area where you can go early in the morning and wait for them to wake up and go take a dip in water and start drinking water for all those beautiful clicks that you would like to take of birds.
Super. It looks like a awesome photo up there, right?
Yes. And the final point is Kalo Dungar. It's a small hill within Kutch, but it's not the point of attraction is not the hill, but there is a temple out there for years, and we were also fortunate to see every day at 12 o'clock when the priest comes out and offers something on that hill. There are two jackals which appear from nowhere and start having the offering. So that is one attraction if anybody wants to just feel the natural or supernatural or whatever it is.
Excellent. And any memorable stories that you'd like to share with the locals, or maybe something just you experienced?
Yes. When we were staying at that homestay with Krutat Singh Jadeja, and there he had asked us to go visit one of the village around. So while walking, we entered this family homes of the Rabadis. Rabadis are a tribe who were a nomadic tribe. But now slowly they are settling down because the nomadic lifestyle doesn't suit, and the younger generations want to get the advantage of education and other things. So in conversation, we saw many young girls in the house all engaged in embroidery, and the utensils are arranged in a very nice way on the racks. So, in conversation, when we inquired about why all of them were doing all this embroidery, they said that in their community, the dowry is the embroidery that the girl makes through her age till the time she's getting married. And that is very, very important.
Interesting.
It's not about money, it's about the embroidery. So the neater the embroidery, the number of things that she has made is what makes her more eligible in the marriage market rather than looks or the money or what the parents can offer in terms of other material things.
This one is the first I haven't heard of anything like this before, right?
Yes, it's a tradition in the Rabadi community. You can read up on that. They are Rabari. I have the details on my blog too. So I've got a couple of pictures and how it was. So it was a fantastic experience. So after that, we just drove back to Ahmedabad, completely content and hoping that the journey could have lasted longer, and then back to Bangalore.
Like they say, all good things have to come to an end, right?
Yes.
So, Sangeeta, any final bit of advice to our aspiring travelers?
Aspiring travelers, I think, once at least do a solo trip, even if it is for a day or two, because it just gives you a lot of clarity about yourself. And it will also help you understand how much time you can spend by yourself and with yourself. Because finally, at the end of the day, it very much matters how you can entertain yourself. If you can do that very well, then you'll never ever feel low in your life because you'll always have your own company to cherish.
Awesome. That's some excellent advice for all our aspiring travelers and listeners to take home. Before we close this episode, I'd like to ask, if I were to ask you to just shut your eyes and think about one memorable moment from this trip, what would that be?
It would be my moment on Great Run of Kutch, where I got so carried away by the moonlight that I actually did somersaults.
Awesome. Sangeeta, it's been an excellent journey so far, and I'm sure that a bunch of our listeners would be inspired by this and would be willing to reach out to you and learn more as well. What's the best way to reach you and to keep in touch with all the super stories that you write?
So follow my blog, lifeisavacation.in, and you can follow me on Twitter, on Instagram, or on email. Everything is Life is a Vacation. Email is lifeisavacation@outlook.com. Twitter and Instagram, I go by that, and then Facebook too. So just drop in an email. I am always responding to people's queries on when to travel to Kutch, how to travel, and what to do out there. So why only Kutch? I'll be happy to talk about, help you with any other tour planning, anything, or if you need a little bit of pep talk to go make that solo travel, just drop in an email, and I'm more than happy to help you geared up to experience what you want to.
Yes, I can personally vouch for that. Sangeeta is a very helpful human being, and she does very promptly respond to emails. So any query, don't hesitate, just ask, right?
Right.
Awesome. Sangeeta, please share any upcoming travel or project that you're excited about.
Yeah, I don't know whether it will happen anytime soon, but I want to make it happen this year. I have been plotting and planning a trip to Mongolia for quite some time. So I've almost zeroed in on a group that I can travel with. So that's what excites me right now. Go experience the Great Gobi Desert.
Excellent. The home of Genghis Khan, right?
Yes.
Sangeeta, all the best for your future travels, and we hope that happens so that we can come back to you and hear more stories from you. You've been an excellent guide all through and taken our listeners and our aspiring travelers through this journey to the Great Rann of Kutch and all the places surrounding it, giving us a complete insight into things to do and places to enjoy. We look forward to talking to you soon. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you so much for having me, and I hope your listeners enjoy what I've said, and I would look forward to do some more sessions with you in future. Thank you. All the best.
That was yet another great episode of the Musafir Stories. If you guys like the show, please subscribe to us on iTunes, Audioboom, Stitcher, Pocket Radio, or any other podcasting app that's available on iOS or Android. You could also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We go by the handle The Musafir Stories. Or if it suits you, you could email us at themusafirstories@gmail.com and visit our website www.themusafirstories.com for more information. All of these links will be made available in the show notes section of the podcast. So here's to more traveling, sharing, and inspiring. Stay tuned for our next episode. Until then, happy travels and goodbye.